Dispatch all biters. My quest to free the country of zombies. By Mystic Alchemist. Copyright 2020 Mystic Alchemist. All rights reserved. Written in Australian English. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places and incidents are either a product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual people living or dead, events or locales is purely coincidental. Chapter 14. 157 Oak Hollow Road. Everglade 23 miles. The road clear and signs advertising eating places and motels littering the side of the highway, all signs of a large city ahead. 157 Oak Hollow Road, I said, her address etched in my mind. How we going to find that? There's a street map but the writing is small, Nigel said, his face down close to the paper. I can read it good, Geraldine said, then the pair spent 10 more miles trying to work which direction to go. Do you want me to stop while you work it out? I said. No reply, so I did stop. That's better, Nigel said, the paper doesn't flap in the wind now. Only a minute and they had the road found. I wished I had a pen to mark the route but they both said they would get us there quickly. I was not so sure. Left here, Geraldine said after I passed the corner and had to turn completely around. Right after 6 crossroads, Nigel said. From now? No. From where you turned before. Rah. Shiver me timbers, this navigation is hard, I said. But we're getting there, Geraldine said. I breathed deeply and tried to remember how many corners we'd already passed. The road goes around in a curve for ages, Nigel said, then look for 157. I'll look, Geraldine said. 43, 45, 47. I kept driving past 157. We've passed it, Geraldine cried. He's checking in case it's a trap, Nigel said. Is that a side street to hide in? He was pointing to the right and I followed his suggestion, stopping just past the corner and killing the motor. Still hours of daylight and no trouble on the roads at all. I don't like leaving our big guns here, Geraldine said as I was making to open the door. She was right. I started the truck again and turned right around. I'll need to teach you how to turn properly, Nigel said as I ran over the sidewalk. The closer to 157 we came the slower I drove. The house exactly as I'd seen in Street View before I left. I took a sharp turn into the driveway of the house, coming to a stop alongside the side wall, opposite a low fence marking the property boundary with a scattering of half-dead shrubs to hide its rawness. Just like 1,000 more houses all the same. The others were scrambling to get out and grab their rifles while I paused. Axe, Nigel said. I opened the door and retrieved my axe from the back of the truck. We were ready. I led to the front door, knocking and saying, "You there, Kathy?" Nothing. Back, Nigel said, his head tilting the way. You there, Kathy? I knocked on the solid rear door. No moaners but some noise inside, maybe someone shuffling but not speaking. I took a step back and hefted my axe up to waist height, the others had their rifles up the same. The doorknob turned and there was the click as the latch was released but the door hadn't been pulled open. It's Paul from the game. You sent for me. Maybe your princess has turned into a dragon, Geraldine said quietly. I felt the same. Moving to stand along the wall by the doorway, I gently used my axe to push open the door, the other two still standing ahead, rifles handy. You're just like I pictured you, a female voice said, nearly the same one that I'd heard hundreds of times over the net. I wasn't sure who it was. I still hadn't seen her. You didn't tell me you had a daughter. I'm Geraldine the Brave. You must be his princess. Did he think that? He did, Nigel said, and we came a long way to rescue you. Then he added, I'm Nigel the mechanic, Paul the axe is behind the door still. You all better come inside then. It's safe here at the moment. The others made their way through the doorway and I followed, my axe still in my arm but lowered. This welcome was not what I expected and it didn't improve when I got inside. I tagged along last and ended up inside the living room. thick curtained window ahead and a large TV in the corner with a couch and padded lounge chairs fanned around. Shelves and a bookcase on one side with framed photos on the opposite wall. Kathy pointing everyone where to sit, but I stayed standing, taking in the room. You really came a long way to get to me, Kathy said in my direction. I nodded and then Nigel took over a brief story from when I found him, with Geraldine adding the bits about shooting down helicopters. I noticed she still had the black patch over her forehead. You're quiet, Kathy said, turning to look directly at me. I didn't know you were married, I said, the room chilling instantly. Ended 2 years ago, about the time I began serious gaming. That your husband in that picture? Nigel asked, getting up to look at the wall. He looks a lot like me. When I first saw you in the doorway, for a moment I thought it was him. You look just like him when we first married. Tell us more about the undead, Geraldine said. Mushy stuff can wait. Your daughter is keen on fighting, Kathy said, looking at Nigel. She's not my daughter, Nigel said. She's mine, I said before he could say anything else, and she's right, we need to keep fighting before more of those foreign traitors get into this country. Geraldine was looking at me as happy as if she'd just shot down another helicopter, while Nigel and Kathy were looking like they wanted to start snuggling right now. We ran into some foreign people this morning. Looks like they are taking over this country. Near here? Kathy asked, suddenly serious. Out the country, Nigel said, Kathy turning to look at him, 2 in a SUV. We blasted them good, Geraldine said, grinning. They might only have been visiting, Kathy said. Visiting to see where they could live. Now the inhabitants have all been killed and their bodies trucked to the Everglade Processing Center. She was back looking at me and my axe hand was feeling itchy. You make it sound like it's a game, she said. They were people, weren't they? We were all silent a moment, then I said, my daughter and me might go and reconnoiter the area. Nigel needs rest and his wounds checked. We've got antibiotics in the truck, Nigel said. Do you have water? Yes, and power, but I don't use it much so they can't tell we're alive. We'll be back before dark, I said, Geraldine scampering to get ahead of me as we made our way toward the back door. Walking near the truck I saw the boxes in the tray, and the big guns all out in open sight. Take them a box of chips and some chocolate while I hide these guns. She doesn't deserve them, Geraldine said. For Nigel. Okay. While Geraldine selected what to take, I got one of the guns from the truck back and lifted it down and put it over the low picket fence that was dividing the houses. 2 boxes of bullets hidden with them, the job done before Geraldine returned. Let's go. Side by side we walked along the side of the street, me trying to concentrate at studying the area more carefully. I don't trust her either, Geraldine the brave said softly. Something's wrong, I said, but I trust you. Yes, Dad, she laughed a little. Something was definitely wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Not used to suburbs like this, but we'd walked about 20 houses and things seemed too right, too perfect. And there were no cars parked on the roadside or in the driveways. I just saw someone peeping through a window, Geraldine said. Over there, the curtain moved. She was looking ahead but nodding to the left. I tried glancing but it seemed normal and every curtain was in place. Stopping then and doing a slow turn right around I saw it. Every window was covered. Every window had curtains drawn. We're going back. Don't let them guess we've seen anything out of place, I said, and I took hold of her hand and we walked swinging our arms as though nothing was wrong with the world, even though she had a rifle and my free arm was swinging an axe. By the time we were back near our truck the hair on the back of my neck was sticking out hard. It got even worse when I walked alongside the truck and saw the big gun missing. Geraldine was looking at me. Nigel, she whispered. I shook my head, he wasn't strong enough yet to lift it. Trying to not look I checked on the gun I'd dropped over the fence. It was still there. I flicked my eyes at Geraldine and then the next door house, so when I jumped over the low fence, she was right behind me in sprinting to the back door. It was a porch, plants in pots all around and a screen to keep insects outside, and the mesh door was unlocked. Our gun was on the floor between the pots, but we couldn't leave it at that. I made for the rear house door, not bothering with the knob, my axe swiping at the catch and seeing the door burst open, a startled-looking woman standing in the opening, and she wasn't from here. Geraldine shot her. The small rifle shot hardly making any sound and the bullet hitting the woman in the tummy, a tiny spot of blood appearing on her brightly patterned dress and her hands gripping the place while she wailed some strange foreign gibberish. When she saw my axe lift up, that talk increased but stopped when her head was split. More, Geraldine hissed. I heard more foreign gibberish, a man's voice this time. When I burst into that room he was talking into a phone, the bluish light outlining his eastern face. Geraldine fired higher this time and the phone was getting a much louder message. His talking turned into yelling when I chopped his right leg and then that stopped completely when I sliced his head too. A last chop reserved for the phone. At least that gave a bright spark as it split in half. A quick check but no more people in the house. The kitchen contents were packets and tins all labeled in their strange stick writing. The invasion had certainly begun. The two of us got both guns into our truck. We had no way of knowing how long before someone would come to get us, so I left Geraldine to stay in the back of our truck with the big gun over the end, ready to blast while I ran inside to get Nigel. I didn't bother knocking. We need to leave now, I yelled. Nigel and Kathy were side by side on the couch. Now, I said, they know we're here. We need to get out now. It's safe here, Nigel said, his new friend nodding. And your neighbors? I'm the only person around here, Kathy said. So we were imagining the foreign couple next door who took our gun, and we must have been imagining when we killed them, and this blood must be imaginary. I was holding my axe up, fresh blood and brains still on the metal. Kathy stiffened, but Nigel was up and ready to move. Are you with us or them? I watched her pause and I had my answer, but I couldn't act, and she knew. She knew me too well. I saved you. You know that. I kept you inside when they released the stuff. I kept you occupied and I even sent you a game to learn how to survive. Nigel had turned away from her and was making for out. There's a job here for you all. Anything you want. Anything but honor, I said. I helped Nigel walk and get up into the tray of the truck so he could work the second gun. He smelled of her perfume, but the wind would blow that away.